Good morning and welcome to the Environmental Echo podcast. I am your host, Paul Boyce, CEO and president of PWGC. And today we've got a really exciting and dynamic guest for our show. It's the town supervisor for Smithtown, Ed Wehrheim. Ed, welcome.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm very pleased to be here with you, gentlemen.
We are fortunate to have you, and we're going to get into some real interesting topics around the town and how you guys are facing some environmental challenges and impacts. Also with us today, we've got Charlie Bartha, who, again, is a repeat offender on the show, and I love having him. He's got a lot of good insights. He's one of our senior vice presidents, now heading up a lot of our business development activities at PWGC. He's also part of our engineering group, and he's a former commissioner for Suffolk County Department of Public Works. And he's been real familiar with Supervisor Wehrheim and the town of Smithtown for the last couple of years. It's just going to be, I think, an interesting discussion we're going to have today. And like the rest of Long Island, Smithtown is evolving and experiencing growth-related issues. Some of the current events include the proposed development of the Gyrodyne site. That's certainly something we need to talk about. And on top of that, part of the discussions we've had on some past podcasts, wastewater infrastructure. That has been a hot topic for the last couple of years here on the island, as well as some of your downtown areas in Smithtown. You got St. James, Kings Park, and a whole bunch of others. And then lastly, we do want to talk about that Hauppauge Industrial Park, formerly known as the Hauppauge Industrial Park. I stand corrected. It's now the Long Island Innovation Park at Hauppauge. Right, so that's all interesting. But before I begin, just to let our listeners know, if you guys need to reach out to us for any comments, questions, suggestions, you have topics you want us to discuss in the future, best way to get a hold of us is through our website, which is www.pwgrosser.com/podcast. And with that, I welcome our guests, and I'd like to start the discussion. So, Supervisor, could you just give us a brief summary of the town's efforts to improve the environment and the economy in Smithtown?
Sure, Paul. So we're very active as we speak about clean water initiatives, basically sewering all three of our business districts. Something that's interesting about Smithtown that doesn't exist in most places. In each one of our hamlets, which is Kings Park, Smithtown, and St. James, we have a railroad station. So we're kind of ripe for transit-oriented development, but certainly need to clean the water up first. So let's start with St. James. St. James, we did a $12 million restoration project infrastructure. We took up Lake Avenue, which is a town road. And while the road was up, we installed sewer mains from North Country Road to Woodlawn Avenue. That's complete sewer mains to the business. We also, at the same time, installed brand new water mains for the business district as well. Then the road was reclaimed, totally repaved, sidewalks and curbs, and stamped concrete, decorative work all completed, signage completed, and we are in the process now of working on off-street parking, which is another issue that needs to be included when you do your downtown business districts. We bought a parcel of property that was in tax arrears from the county, raised the building, and that under construction now is off-street parking along with a community park in the center of St. James for summer festivals, concerts, things like that. So we're very excited about that. The hookup for the sewer main, we're still working on that. As you spoke before, Paul, Gyrodyne is one site that has possibilities. However, there are other possibilities as well. We are working with the county and Peter Scully, the sewer czar, on another location right now that's east of that where St. James may be hooked up as well. So we do have options in the event that Gyrodyne project does not work out. If you move west to Smithtown, our plans for Smithtown, we do have $20 million that was appropriated by the state of New York. It is still accessible at this time. The problem with Smithtown is where we would send the wastewater to in that business district. So we have discovered a parcel. It's about 17 acres in the former psychiatric center in Kings Park. And we're working with the state representatives and Governor Hochul to ascertain that property. If we do, we would need 2 acres of the 17 for leaching fields. That will allow us to run Smithtown Business District capacity into Sewer District 6 in Kings Park. So we're very excited about
Yes.
that.
Keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the only way we're going to be able to sewer the Smithtown downtown business district. So we're very hopeful that we can make an agreement there. Then that would be engineered because it has not yet been done by the county. Establish the sewer district and work on that. That's probably going to be the last business district done. Kings Park, if you go further west now, Kings Park is engineered. It's ready, shovel ready. There is a referendum on December 14th this month. I believe there's about 172 voters eligible to vote on the sewer district. We anticipate positive results there. We've been through that entire community. And once that's done, the county has indicated they should have a shovel in the ground probably late spring or early summer of 22. Completion date is 23. That should be completed right through the Kings Park Business District. So all three of our business districts, environmentally and also economically, are really ready to explode.
Wow. And so just for our listeners' benefit, when you said, put sewers into the ground when you had the road open, so these are now just dry sewers, as we call them, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
So they're not being used yet, but you guys had the foresight to put it in, while the opportunity was present.
Yeah, and believe it or not, you gentlemen are engineers. We received some opposition for that. The original proposal was to do an overlay on Lake Avenue because the road bed was in bad shape, and put new sidewalks in. And I was one of the people that raised opposition to that and said, you need to put this infrastructure in now. Doing it later is as you know, is not the proper way to do it.
It's not having to go and resurface a road twice. It's not the cost-effective way to do it.
To get, excuse me, Paul,
Sure.
but to get the support for those kind of projects, you've been involved in a number of things where, in my opinion, you've shown some real leadership, both working across party lines because you need state support on this, but as well as county. But what sounds like a small thing to most people, there was some parkland property involved, a small piece of parkland to use as a pumping station. And typically electeds shy away from alienating parkland, being the phrase.
Yep.
And people make like it's impossible. It's not impossible. You might want to tell us about that.
Sure. Thank you, Charlie. And you're right. A lot of times, elected officials will shy away from that. And it is possible. The way you need to do it, in my opinion, is we went and we reached out to civics, we reached out to chambers. I did work across the aisle. I've always believed in that. I've been in elective office now for 15 years. I've been working in town government for about 45. If you don't work across the aisle, you're not going to get much done. But you also need community input. And I found if you have community input, and you get those people on your side, and then the state and or county and federal agencies see that, it's a much easier lift. And I think that's what we had to reached out to all those groups and got a positive feedback from them on what the benefits of doing that.
It was a very small piece of property too.
Very small piece of property. Less than an acre.
But it was a big deal. It was a lot of work to go through, and most people would have just said it can't be done.
Well, it really it worked out terrific.
It did. We're very pleased. As I just said, these three business districts have a very, very bright future.
So you mentioned, I think, is it St. James? They're still their own water district. Is that correct?
Yes, we have two districts. We have Smithtown and St. James Water District. So, of course, it's fed by Suffolk County Water.
Yes, that's correct.
However, when we were doing the infrastructure plans, the water mains in St. James were, I think, 46 years old, and the community had built up around it, and actually they were not sufficient for the community itself.
Got undersized.
Yeah,
and you get fire flow protection, and not only just water supply needs, it becomes fire protection, a whole bunch of other things.
Another just a note on St. James. Sometimes you're very fortunate in government. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you are. Actually, as terrible as COVID is, we worked and we had a mild winter. Along with that, we worked right through the entire winter, and we brought that St. James project in a little over a year ahead of time. which was a plus because we were shutting businesses down as we were doing construction work. So we lessened by a year the amount of time that we interfere with their business.
The impact on the businesses, which I'm sure they had to appreciate.
Yeah, they did.
From that standpoint, as well as the finished product that they ended up with, too.
Sure.
That's terrific. Another thing it's near and dear to our heart at PW Grocers, sustainability. Can you tell us what the town's doing regarding sustainable development and maybe alternative energy or anything that you guys have in the works?
Well, we actually Smithtown has won some awards from the state on energy and how we look to the future. All of our off-street parking lots that we have produced, we have one at Belmead in Smithtown, one at Kings Park. When we build those parks, we put charging stations in all of them. We have 2 charging stations at Town Hall. We have our fleet vehicles. 3/4 of the fleet vehicles we have are electric or hybrids. So we move forward there. We also have a huge initiative with solar. As we speak, we're putting solar panels on our Smithtown Landing Country Club buildings. We put about $2.5 or $3 million into improvements for that golf course and pool complex in my first tenure. So we're very proactive when it comes to that. We're also looking at the possibility of solar over our capped landfills. And there is a solar project that was completed 2 years ago right on Northport and Indian Head Road. It was a former golf driving range.
Mhm.
That is now a solar project that powers multiple houses in that community. So we've done that as far as clean energy goes. We continue to work on that. We do have one wind power mechanism at the.
I was going to go to my next question.
Yeah.
You looking at wind at all?
We are. We have one at our multiple service facility
Okay.
that produces electricity. And of course, that's on our radar for the future as well. So our environmental department does a wonderful job keeping tabs on what's going on, updating us on what environmental aspects are out there for wind or solar. So most of our town facilities have been converted to natural gas from fuel oil, which is a benefit as well. So sustainability, when it comes to development, what we have started to introduce in Smithtown is rental apartments. There really wasn't. Smithtown's basically a North Shore bedroom community, single family homes. We have found some areas where we felt proper development would be for these rental units. And I can tell you that surprising to me as well. For example, we did a project on Jericho Turnpike in Coma, 98 market rate apartments. It's called Fieldstone. They sold out in less than a year. And I believe they have about 29 people on a waiting list.
Oh, wow.
And what surprised me, quite frankly, was in a good way. What we found was that a lot of the people that rented those apartments were previous owners of single family homes right in our town. They retired, but did not necessarily want to move away. The proverbial move to Florida or the Carolinas, which was pretty prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
They actually wanted to rent. Some of them may have a summer home in Florida, a winter home rather in Florida, but they wanted to rent these apartments so they had a turnkey so they could come up and down anytime they wanted. A lot of them have children here, and the benefit of it was younger families that are moving into Smithtown to raise their families bought those homes. So that was a bit surprising to me as well as to who's going to really rent these. But
That's
that
interesting.
project is completed, and it was so successful. They're buying in the process of purchasing the 2 properties to the east to construct additional apartments. Very successful project. So that's going to be sustainable. We have same type of project, smaller scale, 36 units on Indian Head Road, Kings Park. So we've done a lot of that, and I think we'll talk about some lighted areas that we developed as well that'll now be sustainable that weren't before.
Wow.
It was just a piece in the paper. Was it today or yesterday?
There's one in there today about a building in Smithtown that's
that's
raise or rebuild. I think the title was.
That's an interesting point that Charlie brought up. That building burned about 5 or 6 years ago. The owner was going to reconstruct it, but then sold the property. And we have been in discussions with the present property owner for the last 3 years, and they keep giving us excuses why they can't develop it. We feel it's unsafe. There's no roof on it. If you saw the view from the aerial view from it, we think it's an unsafe structure. So we scheduled a public hearing, and if they don't come to the table to reconstruct the building, we'll take it down.
And I want to ask you something else about municipal solid waste in the town of Smithtown. How are you guys managing that? You know, the landfill space in Long Island is just about done. You know, we've got to really look now to the future on how we're going to manage, you know, our garbage. What's the town looking at?
Well, very interesting point, Paul, when you bring that up. It's one of the top priorities. As a matter of fact, I just attended a Supervisor Association meeting, Suffolk County towns yesterday, and Winter Brothers did a presentation on their proposed rail project in Brookhaven. We have one applicant, 52 acres on Northport Road, which is a heavy industrial area, next to the rail as well. And we've been working with that property owner for about 2 years now on the possibility of rail coming in right in Kings Park to take some of the solid waste. Now, the issue here is we believe as supervisors, it's a regional issue. But frankly, we have been talking to state officials and federal officials for 2 or 3 years now with no results. And the Brookhaven landfill is slated to close in 24. I don't think most people, it's not a sexy subject, garbage, but it's a real issue that people have to start thinking about. Once that landfill closes, there's only 2 ways to truck. Waste is going to have to be trucked off the island. The only 2 ways to do that, rail or truck. And I've been trying, along with my town board and other supervisors have as well, to try and explain to folks the detriment to adding 500 trucks a day to the Long Island Expressway and the environmental damage that it's going to do, along with traffic, along with the damage to the infrastructure. It's probably the number one issue because it doesn't seem there are any answers from higher levels of government. And frankly, local municipalities aren't going to be able to handle that themselves. It's just not possible. So we're working on that one rail project. I know Brookhaven's working on a rail project. My belief is, and I'm not ashamed to say it is, I believe it has to be rail. I think, you know, trucking solid waste off the island is going to be hugely detrimental, both environmentally and for the infrastructure and people's lives, traffic on that.
Yeah. Quality of life.
We've been involved in some of those projects, including Brookhaven, and Supervisor Romaine was actually on a podcast earlier this year talking about it. And you both clearly in step with that. And the information I've seen with respect to rail, it's so much more efficient, you know, is with respect to fuel. So it's an environmentally good thing. And the cars that they have now, special for this purpose, are sealed so tight that it's not a problem as far as odor or leakage along the route.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
A big problem, once you have the receiving station, municipalities willing to accept that, is still the Long Island Railroad schedule, which favors the commuting lines, of course. And that is that's a serious problem. It's certainly a state issue.
Yeah, it absolutely is, Charlie. And that's where our confusion comes in. They just don't seem to want to engage, and it's going to be on them. It has to be on them, and it has to be, you know, rail on both places. The one we're working on, the one Supervisor Romaine's working on, of course, huge public opposition. I don't think they understand it. So, as I stated, our job is going to be to try and show them what the detriment will be to the environment, and the fact that if there is no answer by 24, solid waste disposal for residential communities are going to be astronomical on their bill to pay for that. Unsustainable, in my opinion.
Where does Smithtown solid waste go now?
Right now, we are in a joint venture with Huntington. It goes to the Cavanta plant, and they incinerate it.
And then it goes to Brookhaven?
That's where the ash goes.
Yeah.
Ash goes to Brookhaven, and all of our C&D goes to Brookhaven as well.
Interesting.
So it's it's probably the major, along with sewering business districts, to be able to build those revitalized business districts, probably right equal with that as the number one issue, because it's going to happen. 2 years will be gone before you know it.
I couldn't agree with you more. Time is flying by, and a topic like this, we've got to address it now. I mean, we're already too late. You know, we're behind the eight ball. Another issue well, not an issue, but the topic, the town, you guys, you know, you're up on the North Shore of Long Island. You got a lot of waterfront facilities and just waterfront, you know. From a resiliency perspective, what efforts has the town been undertaking to preserve town services and, you know, the amenities that you guys offer your residents?
Yeah, for around right now, around I think we have about 40 miles of shoreline actually.
Yeah.
Boating is very popular. We have our marina at Long Beach. We have two mooring areas, one at the Kings Park Bluff in the Nessaquag River, and we have one at Long Beach. We're in the process now of renovating the Bay Constable's offices at the marina, and we have in our capital budget proposals for 22 to engineer some repairs of what we call our sea slip side, which accepts boats from 25 foot down. And we have a long range plan that we're working on as well for larger boats to expand to about another 188 or 200 slips. So we have a lot of work to do in the future for that boat. The future plan looks really good. We've already met with DEC. We have some work being done on preliminary plans on how we would do it. And again, it's a futuristic plan, but we want to do that. Right now, the county is dredging the mouth of the Nessaquag River, which has filled in. Unfortunately, it fills in every year, or every 2 years. And one of the advantages we're going to have in the Nessaquag River is state of New York just constructed, it's completed, and they're going to locate their DEC headquarters right in Kings Park.
Yeah.
And they're going to expand the marina as well. But that's going to be an advantage because we believe they're going to have 5 DEC boats there, including one of their 45 footers. We feel they will then take over and dredge the rest of that Nessaquag out to the mouth. County just does the mouth coming in, and they don't have the funding or the availability to do the rest. We think the state will do that because, of course, they're not going to put their DEC boats there and then leave them docked. They're going to want to get them out to the center. So we have a lot of environmental, issues going on there that we're taking care of.
Is there anything you guys are doing, like a little bit in terms of climate change or sea level rise that you guys are preparing the town for future years?
We are. As far as climate change goes, we're doing a lot of pre-planning for drainage issues. A lot of our road drains, and I know Charlie will know this, you're now getting these 2.5, 3 inch driving rainstorms, and the drainage systems that were introduced when we built all these subdivisions are inadequate now. So we're systematically looking at all of those areas. We have about 3 or 4 areas where we have had flooded homes that never flooded before. So we're working on that. And we have a grant that we're in the process of doing now to raise Long Beach Road 3 feet, because going into Long Beach, due to climate change, we feel the water levels have risen. And you don't need a real substantial storm, and that road floods over. And the reason it's imperative, and we went to work on it immediately, is 2 reasons. One, all of our Bay Constables and Marine law enforcement are stationed down there, so they would be either locked in or not able to get into their offices. And more importantly, there's a residential community at the end of that facility. I believe it's about 30 or 40 homes. They're blocked out too for a matter of public safety. When that road floods, you cannot get in or out. You're landlocked.
Raising a road 3 feet is no small undertaking.
No. So we did receive some grant money, which is very, very helpful.
Good.
And that project is engineered and ready to be started.
That's terrific. It's just, you mentioned it, the frequency and the intensity of these storms, they're increasing, and it's, as you mentioned, infrastructure we had designed and constructed years ago is no longer has the capacity to handle it, even if it's in pristine condition. It just gets so overwhelmed so quickly. Just we have to be more forward thinking, I guess. Or and I know this is maybe addressing a symptom, as opposed to, how do you stop climate change if you can? But it's just amazing, and you're not alone. All the other towns on Long Island have to do the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, very evident. Just this year alone, some of those storms that we had, I'm a third generation kid from Kings Park, so I've lived here all my life. My parents lived here, my grandparents lived here, and I could tell you, other than the winters were a little more severe when I was younger, as they are now. Number one, but number two, those driving rainstorms. i- In years before, you didn't see that kind of rain in this area where it come down. You'd see it down in Florida, more towards the south, but it's a fact.
And the frequency of it certainly increased.
Absolutely, Charlie. There's no question.
And in a lot of places, I don't know about Smithtown, but maintenance that the systems were installed years ago. Municipalities are historically weak on spending money for maintenance. And you get sand in there, you get debris, get some blockages, and before you know it, it's not functioning right.
Yeah, we have two new pieces of equipment. One we received on a grant. One we purchased with our own drain cleaning systems that go in and back them. And our highway department spends far longer time doing that now as a necessity than it ever did before. But you have to keep them clean. As a matter of fact, when I traverse from Kings Park to Smithtown to work, I constantly bother the state of New York because their storm drains on 25A coming down. They don't maintain them as frequently, and I let them know all your drains are covered, and if you get another rainstorm, you're gonna have a flooded state road. So
We've been
most of the
involved in a
time-
few of those projects
You
too.
have?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And not only that, but they get a lot of like pet waste going out to the harbor,
Yeah.
like Northport Harbor and places like that. It's a problem.
Yeah, it is. It's a big job, and it's something that you have to be very active on because it's just a fact. It is happening. It's not a myth, and we have to adapt.
Well, maybe going back to the winter side of things, hopefully we'll be plowing less snow.
Well, less snow for us in municipalities is always wonderful.
I
because
know.
that is far more costly than the average resident believes it is to clear roads.
Without a doubt. Charlie, you're a man I know that knows that very well.
Seen a lot of snow pushed.
No doubt about it, Charlie. I see that.
So Ed, I do want to, recently Congress, everybody passed this infrastructure bill at the federal level. What do you see? What do you hope makes its way down to the town level for you guys?
Well, certainly we're hoping to get our fair share. I will tell you, as a municipality, that's not always easy. A lot of times this federal money comes from the feds into the state through the county. And we're the last one on that totem pole. So you have to fight for it. So at this present time, we're working on ARPA money that was given federal relief money. We got 5.1 million in August, this past August. We are actively working on spending that within the requirements. And fortunately, we are allowed to spend a lot of that on drainage infrastructure and things like that, which we're funneling quite a bit of money into that area, as we just spoke, to alleviate some of the major problems that we have throughout Smithtown. Also, it can be used for park improvements. We are using that to renovate some of our parks. And another thing we're in the process of working on as we speak is a facade renovation program, grant program. We haven't assessed the number yet, but we're going to have a grant program and put probably $1 million of that money aside. Any business owner in the business district, any of our 3 business districts that wants to do a facade renovation, will match their money. So if, for
Wow.
example, if they want to put a $20,000 improvement into their building as a facade renovation, we'll expedite the permit and we'll match the 20,000. We think that's going to be a boost to have people start to do some of the facade renovations because it's very costly nowadays. So we're working on that 5.1 million. We will receive 5.1 million in August of 22 as well. So we'll use that up. And to your point, Paul, we are already starting to call our state reps, our Congress representatives that are included in Smithtown, and starting to make our demands that they do not forget us and make sure when that infrastructure money is available, we want to have our fair share. And you do have to fight for it.
You do, and you also need, which it sounds like you have, an agenda of what projects that you prioritize.
Yeah, we do, Charlie. We have a booklet that we have sent to Congressman Zeldin just anticipating that the bill would pass. So he has it, and he's aware of it, and we're notifying our state representatives. And really, best bet to get it is if you have some shovel-ready projects, which we have indicated, it's a little bit of an easier lift to get that money because that's what they're looking for. They don't want it laying around. They want you to prove that you're going to use it.
Yeah, that's the intention.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed that the town gets some of that money and puts it to good use because, as you just pointed out, you do have some good uses for it.
Yeah, we certainly do.
And you touched on one of my last topic here was the town's parks and golf courses. I've been up there. I don't think I've played at a town course, but I've been up to like the Nissaquag Golf Club. Absolutely breathtaking, beautiful, scenic views up there. I mean, even if even if you're not a golfer like myself, I'm just hacking away, but just that Nissaquag River, everything. What's being done currently to improve the town's parks and golf courses? Are you guys doing any additional parking, any bathrooms, any different types of amenities or facilities for the residents? What's going on with that respect?
Sure. So, my first term as supervisor, myself and the board, we have spent $33.3 million in capital improvements in parks. Part of that was our Smithtown Landing Country Club, which is an 18-hole golf course, 9-hole golf course, swimming pool complex, and we have a catering facilities there as well. We've put about $3 million into that. We redid all of the bathroom facilities, modernized them all. It's managed by Michael Hebron. He's one of the top 25 instructors in the world. We've had him there for a while, MPH Management. He runs the golf course, and then he pays us a fee, and then that's his business to get the proceeds there. He has his academy there as well, well attended by potential golfers going into the PGA. He's a very well-known entity, and we want to make sure he stays there. So we've done a lot of work, about, again, $3 million worth of improvements. He has just hired a new superintendent, female, and she's been here a year now and doing a real wonderful job at Smithtown Landing. I would encourage you, to go down and play it. At one time, we were known as one of the top 33 municipal golf courses in the United States of America. It's
wow.
a pretty popular golf course. To your point, Paul, and Charlie knows, the 18th hole, which is the signature hole, you take your drive out, and when you get to the end, you're overlooking all of the Nissaquag River and Long Island Sound. It's one of the most beautiful scenes.
I tell you, when I'm there, I don't feel like I'm on Long Island anymore. It takes you someplace else. It is amazing.
It really does. It's just a great facility. So we feel it warrants putting a lot of money into it. We're working with the caterer now to do additional renovations on the interior of the buildings, and we'll continue to work with MPH on the golf course. In our park systems, the lion's share of that $33 million went into renovate parks. When I took over, our parks were rather deteriorated. There hadn't been much maintenance done in a long time. Hasn't been much funding put into them. So we went to work on a program, and we've improved about 70% of the parks. We have about 25 community parks in Smithtown. We've done about 70% of them. That's new court surfaces, making the restrooms handicap accessible. We've started to work on some handicap playground equipment for disabled children. Fields, we're in the process now. We just did $1 million improvement on 2 soccer fields, all synthetic turf in St. James. And we're working on 2 synthetic infields for Little League as we speak. And one of our big initiatives was Flynn Memorial Park. Flynn Memorial Park was before ball field complex that was built about 25 years ago. Fairly deteriorated. It was all grass. It was expensive, but we felt worth it. We did a $7 million project there. It is the only facility like it on all of Long Island. It's attracting people this season from Virginia, New Hampshire. Teams are coming down to play. They had left that facility years ago, USSSA softball, adult softball. Used to have their national tournaments there. It was so deteriorated, they left and went to New Jersey and Connecticut, but they're all coming back now. So it's all 4 fields are completely synthetic.
Oh, wow.
We have concessions. We have a $250,000 playground there for the moms that come with the children to watch their husbands play. It's a wonderful facility. We opened it up. This is the first year, and it's going to be a revenue generator for the town, just from fees playing. And USSSA has a huge interest in bringing the national tournaments back, which results in a boom to the entire economy of Smithtown. And outside of Smithtown, quite frankly, hotels, restaurants, because when they come, it's generally a 1 week elimination playoff, but they bring their families and everything here. So it's we're really proud of that facility. Another thing that we encountered is you probably heard about it, I'm sure. I didn't even know what it was, but pickleball has become like so huge. I had no idea what it was. So my parks director kept talking about it, and I'm like, "What is it?" And he goes, "Well, it's like a smaller tennis court." And so one weekend channel surfing, I hit this and I see this pickleball tournament. It was actually being played in Miami. So I stayed on it for an hour to watch what it was really about, but it is huge. So we're in the process of now converting some of our tennis courts to pickleball
Oh,
courts.
Charlie's a big tennis player.
Yeah.
You're not winning him over.
No, I'm not.
But I have friends that play pickleball in Florida, and really good athlete when he was kids, but he loves pickleball now. It's really become popular, and it takes up less area. So a lot of the subdivision work we've been doing, they're looking for pickleball, which is nice.
It's huge.
I had learned from you a while ago about that Smithtown was the center for softball years ago, and you said you were looking to bring that back. I give you a lot of credit because you brought some new dynamics to the town, certainly, and it's good.
Well, thank you, Charlie. We're real proud of it. And my former career was parks director. So I have an affinity
Well,
for parks and recreation. And back in the mid 80s, USSSA, as I said, their whole Northeast corridor, they played all of their championship games in various parks in Smithtown. And the economy that week was just immense for businesses because they frequented every deli, every restaurant, every hotel. We don't have many in Smithtown, so the hotels outside of the perimeter of Smithtown benefited by it. So we're very pleased at work because this was our first season, and they're going to come back. So it's going to be great.
Wow, that's fabulous. To wrap up, I just have one question. It's something I got to ask. We're almost 2 years now into a pandemic. How has COVID-19 affected how the town does business these days? What kind of long-term changes have you guys pivots have you made? What have you done differently to address the pandemic?
Well, look, first of all, horrible disease. And now, as we all know, it's the variants are there. It's continuing.
Yep.
What we did in Smithtown initially, we kind of preempted some of the other towns, quite frankly. What we did, we took it very serious immediately. We thought as a town board, you're certainly going to see a fiscal impact. We believe that would happen. So we took immediate steps to control that. And then we set up a matrix with all our businesses to try and keep our businesses in business. So from a fiscal standpoint, we immediately imposed a 15% cut in all discretionary spending. And we put an early incentive out. 14 employees that were eligible took the incentive. It saved the town $1.3 million. So we came out of COVID fiscally stable. Even at the last year, we still attained a AAA bond rating and still had proper reserves in place. So we took some early steps. We furloughed our employees 50%, 1 week off, 1 week on, for about 8 weeks. Those were essential employees, highway, sanitation, parks. Our office staff, we did a lot of work from home remotely. And to your point, Paul, we've learned now that we can do a lot more remotely than we ever anticipated. Zoom, Teams, we have implemented a lot of that in town now. So a lot more efficient. And we think, going forward through attrition, that's going to, if governments pay attention to it, you're going to be able to run a little leaner and a little meaner because it works. I was a skeptic, quite frankly, but it works. We've had our board meetings, public hearings. People are at the kitchen table calling in, and so it's really working. So we did the best we could with our employees. We also hired a company called Radish. I think Babylon did it as well. Supervisor Schaefer. We offer that. We still have it in place. If an employee gets up, they call Radish. They have medical staff on hand. If they don't feel well, they'll tell them what the symptoms are. If they believe they should be tested, they tell them go to our public safety department, get a rapid test. Test results come back the next day. And they tell them to stay home. If they're negative, of course, they come to work. If not, they're quarantined. So it has changed the whole dynamic of government. It has made it much more complicated. When you start quarantining employees, 2 weeks ago, we had our almost all, I'd say 7/8 of our building department was out, either with positive COVID cases or people that were in close contact. So we've also, I think every government entity did it. We redesigned our offices, made some more rooms, separated desks. Anywhere our employees deal with the public, it's all plexiglass now. So a lot of changes, and people are starting to adapt. One of the main issues we all had was tax collection. You can't have all these people lined up in town hall together. So we, for 2 years, the 2 tax collection seasons, we did it outside town hall. We set up a whole outdoor tax collection, drive up, pay your taxes right there.
Oh, wow.
Don't even have to get out of your car. And the public appreciated it. Our employees appreciated it. And we collected all our taxes that way, because otherwise town hall is, they're wrapped around the hallways in town hall notoriously to pay taxes. So we put, you can pay online. That's been in place for some time. And we added additional drop boxes where folks could come and put their taxes in. So changed government, but there are a lot of advantages that I think we all discovered we can work with. And look, we hope, like everybody else did, at some point this virus goes away.
Well said there, for sure. Charlie, you have anything you want to add before we wrap up for the day?
I'm good.
Well, then I do want to thank our guest, Supervisor Wehrheim from the town of Smithtown. Terrific having you, very insightful. We've learned quite a bit just speaking with you, and it's great to hear how well the town is doing under your leadership, and we look forward to more of it. Charlie, I also want to thank you for joining us again, our Senior Vice President and Director of our business development operations now. And I am Paul Boyce, the host, CEO, and President of PWGC. I want to thank our listeners for joining us today on this enlightening discussion. And again, if you guys need to reach us, would like to reach us, the best way to do that is through our website, www.pwgrocer.com/podcast. And this is the Environmental Echo, and we are signing off. Thank you.